All right. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Marisol, good to be here with you.
It's great to see you. Um, we go so back, and it's always so nice to get to chat with you. It doesn't happen often enough. Um,
Yeah, at least almost 20 years, I think.
yeah, yeah. I was like 23 or 24. I'm
Yeah.
45. So that's yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Whenever I see photos of the old Drum Ya crew, it's like, oh, that's me and Noah. We were babies. That's Marisol. That's Lena. That's India. And it warms my heart to be reconnected with you in this time and space,
yeah,
Marisol.
definitely. Definitely. Let me share screen and talk to you a little bit about this curriculum. I'm so excited to share it. It's like my brainchild and it's just been completed um like 2 days ago. Um
Oh, the final series completed. I know you were
yeah,
releasing parts of it, as we went along. So,
yeah.
oh,
So it's like it's out, it's all fully out in the world now. Um
woohoo.
yeah. So I have a few slides to help me explain it so just so I don't forget anything. Um so we're talking about the Mosaic Lifespan Anti-Racism Curriculum Series. It's part of the Mosaic Hub of Resources, which is this new branding, new-ish, last couple years, that the UUA is trying to make like a one-stop shop for resources for congregations and UU communities that are focused on anti-racism, intersectional anti-racism, of course. And so this series is one of the many different resources you can find when you go to uua.org /mosaic. And let me go ahead and just talk about like this was so I had worked on the proposal for this. I had this idea a few maybe a year or two before widening the circle of concern, the report was published. But then the report did, of course, call for more resources and lifespan resources so that it could be an intergenerational conversation across our association. And so that kind of, helped me get the ball rolling institutionally.
Mm.
So then of course, for years and years and years, the reason I had written the proposal was because we've been hearing folks talk about like, oh, why do we have OWL for sexuality education, but we don't have something similar for anti-racism education? That's a lifelong thing too that we need to be focusing
Mm-mm.
on. And so I think I started at the UUA in 2017, and in 2018 I held a roundtable with various religious educators, and I just wanted to ask them, you've heard this, maybe you've said this yourself, and over the years, what does it mean? Like, what do you mean by that? I think I know, but I need specifics. So the criteria of what people mean by owl-like anti-racism curriculum came from that conversation. Of course, they meant that it was lifespan, right? And then I also found out that they meant you have to have a required facilitator training for harm reduction's sake, and because these are nuanced conversations, and someone has to have that skill set. Um, Opportunities for building community. They talked a lot about how, well, in OWL, you have the cohort and the youth, especially the youth ages that go through it, will get really, really close during the course of the curriculum. They'll do lock-ins together, they'll have like small cons if it's several congregations who are doing the curriculum together. They'll do several lessons at once, over a weekend or something like that. Excuse me. So they wanted, some kind of templates or instructions, and that's in the facilitator training too, for how
Mm.
to organize something like that. And then also, like sexuality education, anti-racism rhetoric and discourse and analysis changes faster than like theological discourse, for
Oh,
example.
sure.
You know, so there's new terminology, there's new ways of understanding, like intersectionality, for example, is not something we were talking about 10 years ago. And
Hmm.
so and then also there's content creators, writers, educators that we learn maybe we shouldn't be learning from over time.
Right.
So there,
Songs that we can't sing anymore, things like that.
yes, yes. People and materials become problematic. When you know
Right.
better, you have to do better. So frequent updates are also a part
Hmm.
of that. So
That
we had
also
to,
makes me, oh, that just makes me think of going from, what it meant the shift to go from POC to BIPOC, and how
yeah,
there was there was challenging in there, and we understood why, and now BIPOC is the term that we use, but who knows? Yeah, kind of in the future as we get better at this. I like that we're thinking about being adaptable.
exactly. And I think that as an indigenous person, like I don't personally need to be like not isolated, but like identified on its own outside of POC, but I understand that need for the B and the I in BIPOC. Um,
Hmm.
and so I'll use the term just for the sake of common vocabulary. It's the same with the word queer. Like,
Hmm.
I'm an older generation and or at the tail end of an older generation where that is an insult. And I get that, but I use it. I will describe myself as queer, but if I'm identifying myself on a form or something, that's not something I'll use. I'll use lesbian or I or even gay, but I don't but I'll use it for the sake of common vocabulary, and I know the value in
Right.
adapting more inclusive language and language
Yeah.
is imperfect and blah blah blah. But yes, that's the idea. So it has to be adaptable. So I built all of these things into the design of the curriculum. And so here's the
Wow. Oh gosh, it's so cool to see all together.
I know. Yeah. So there's a kindergarten first
Wow.
curriculum, a second and third grade, fourth and fifth grade, middle school, high school, emerging adult, or some people say, college age, but we know not everyone chooses or wants to go to college. There's many routes, but that outside of high school age, newly adult, it's a very different experience than 35-year-old. And in the past, we've said young adult is 18 to 35, and that's it's very different experience. So and then
Definitely.
BIPOC adult and general adult. So the general adult curriculum, I like to let people know that that can be used as a white affinity group, endeavor, but it's not written just for white people. So, whereas the BIPOC adult one is. So it can be a mixed group, or it can be like, for example, like an ARE chapter, engaging in it.
Mm. Oh,
But
that's really good to know.
yeah,
The
yeah,
question on top of my head is, once you get trained, are you trained in all eight
all of them.
modalities?
Yes.
Ah,
So
okay.
the training course, and I'll talk more about that, but the training course is self-paced. It's 6 modules, but the reason we didn't title it, so I worked on it with Melissa James from the Congregational Life Office at the UUA, and she's on the Mosaic team as well. She heads up the learning and practice communities. And so we wanted a training course that could serve to train both our facilitators and and we we designed it so that it's just a general here's how to lead anti-racism conversations. across
Mm,
the lifespan. And then the sixth and final module is an introduction to the curriculum. So to the whole series. So it's basically
mm-hmm.
like a tour of, and here's how to use it, and here's how to access it and navigate it and adapt it. And so in theory, if someone is not planning on teaching the curriculum as a DRE or as a Sunday school volunteer youth group leader or drum chapter leader or you know I think it would even really work with like small group ministries, um stuff like that. But if someone's not going to be engaging with the leading the curriculum, but they're just like wanting some padding for anything else they're doing in the church or in the community with regard to leading conversations in groups around anti-racism, it's an excellent course for that too. You can just stop after you've finished the fifth module and not go on to the sixth. So
I love how flexible and adaptable it is because congregations are in very different places with different needs and different capacities. So it sounds like this is something that can fit different needs.
yeah, yeah. I just recently learned that it's the second most um utilize access whatever course on the UU Institute of 2024.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, yeah, that was I was just like jaw to the ground. I was like, what? That makes me so happy that people are using
That's amazing.
it. So the every single list in the curriculum, I mean every single lesson in the curriculum is in this same playlist format. So from kindergarten all the way through to general adult. There's these headings, and it's open, read, watch, do, close, and take home. And there's links. So each lesson is curated. And I have so many folks contributing to the curation of, different folks doing different lessons. And so you get these various lenses from folks who have different backgrounds, different generations, different expertise and interests. So for opening, you'll have a link. Everything is linked. So it's very minimal um, instruction to the facilitator. So you don't have to wade through a bunch of, um, you know, say this and do this and uh, to get a handle on. It's not a ton of prep time that's needed.
Mm.
um Look it over a day or two ahead so you can see if there's any materials you need, or if you want to maybe send out the readings, for example, a day or two ahead to the participants so that you can come and just discuss. It depends on what your time and your format is, but it's not a ton of prep for the facilitator. I know that facilitators are mostly volunteers and have very full lives, and the world is a lot right now. Um, so just making it as simple as possible was a goal. So there's an opening, there's something to read. For the younger grades, it's going to be like, like a YouTube video. It's like a story time, like a picture book, read along with me. For the older and adult uh, curricula, it's going to be like an article, something like that. Um, then there's something to watch, an age appropriate video that has to do with the lesson, the theme of it, and then an activity of some sort. There's crafts, games, discussion questions, stuff like that. And then something to close with, like checkout questions, chalice extinguishing, something like that. And then something to take home. Now, that might be extra resources if you want to dig deeper on your own time, or it might be an activity or a conversation starter, something to continue thinking about the subject of the lesson throughout the week. Um,
So this playlist, it's a like kind of the typical format for each what a typical session would look like. Is that what that means?
Every single lesson has
Every
these
single lesson.
six
Oh, okay.
headings. And
Mm.
so yeah, so they're all curated. There's a link with every beneath every one of these headings. So it'll be the same format from kindergarten all the way through general adult.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, the features, I've spoken a lot about these already, so I'll just go through. It can be in person, virtual, dual platform. These lessons can be lengthened or shortened at the facilitator's discretion. Um, there's like sometimes there's discussion questions that you could skip over or just have people take home as journal prompts. So it's user friendly, same format for each lesson. Like I said, very few instructions to read. We're not going to like write a paragraph when it could be two sentences. Um, we're not going to say very obvious instructions like click here and read this chalice lighting and then da, da, da. It's like there's an opening and a link. That's intuitive, it
Hmm.
says open, that's what you're going to use. That link, what you find there to read, is going to be your opening words. um Mandatory facilitator training, we talked about that. It's free with a promo code. It's Mosaic, all lowercase. I'll show that again later. um, and malleable. We talked about this, how it needs to be able to be updated without having to take the whole curriculum or whole series down, which has been the case in the past with, like, for example, like Tapestry. It's published all together, like PDF format. These are links, so you can take something out, take a YouTube video out, and replace it with something more relevant or less harmful when, like when we discover something that um needs updating. Um so yeah, that's what
Mm,
we
that's
made it modular for that reason as well.
I love that. One of the questions that has been coming up is how long does the training take to do? That's what some of the people are asking. Like, I know you can kind of do it at your own pace, but
Yeah,
that was a
yeah, I
question we
mean,
had.
I think that so there's six modules. The sixth one is, like I said, the orientation to the course. Um and I think that folks can get through it in like a day. If you have like a work day that you can just take off and do it. But I'm seeing some folks taking, an hour or so out of each day in their work week. So I think it's probably like 5 or 6 hours of training.
I
And
see.
it depends on, like, some of it's videos, some of it's articles to read, some of it's like attached PDFs. So it's information that depends on how quickly you um, can digest information. If you want to go back over it, um, some people watch videos or listen to podcasts on, like, you know a little bit higher speed. So it really depends, and it depends on if you have a chunk of time or if you need to split it up. But I think
That
in
makes sense.
total it's like probably like 5 or 6 hours
Okay, that's
on
helpful. Thank
average.
you. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Depending upon how deep dive you want to go into it, kind of thing.
yeah, for
Uh-huh.
sure. And then for adapting it, you can adapt the venue, like I said, in person, virtual, do a platform. The platform itself, there's so many these days, and this list is not exhaustive. Like Zoom, Google Meet, some people still use Skype, there's Slack, there's Microsoft Teams. Basically, if you can do a screen share, then you can use that platform to do virtual or do a platform. Um, Purpose, there's so many different ways to use this. Like obviously Sunday school, obviously youth group, but racial affinity groups like a drum chapter, youth lock-ins, and I've known boards of churches who like will do a book study together. They'll read a book a month together, something like that, and talk about it in addition to their board meeting duties. And they could definitely do lessons together instead of a book. So
Mm.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
lots of
that
applications.
definitely. We've been talking about this for, I think a number of months as the curriculum was coming out, but um, folks were so there are some people that are doing it on their own, but for us as a region, since we are so well organized, with all the BIPOC groups in mostly Northern California, but we are starting to reach out into Southern California too, like, would it be helpful, for people to do module one together, do module two together, do module three together, and like, is there a way,
Of the
for
training,
people for the trainings, yeah, to get
yeah,
kind of trained together, and like any advice? I mean, we have about there's probably over 100 people on our listserv. The last retreat we had at Mount Diablo had over 50 BIPOC UUs from all over the beyond even California come, and so people are, there's a lot of energy around it, being like, hey, let's, could we do this together? Can we be the ones that introduce this into our congregations, things like that? So I don't know if you have any
awesome.
suggestions about how to adapt this best in a BIPOC regional format.
Yeah, well, definitely the folks that take the facilitator training are just the folks that are going to be leading the lessons themselves, not anyone who wants to participate in the curriculum. Um,
Right,
so it
right,
just needs to be the facilitators. But that said, it is on the honor system. Like when you finish the sixth module, there's a screen that just has the link that you can jot down and bookmark. So there's nothing stopping people from sharing that link with whoever. And then they have access to all of the content and all of the curricula in the series. However, because it is about harm reduction and there's so many great like tips in there, and it's just an in-depth orientation to the curriculum, etc. I would say, please do encourage, please don't just share the link with whoever. Please do encourage everyone to take the course. Some people are taking like for example, like a teaching team, like a Sunday school teaching team or something. I have heard of some groups like that, or like youth advisors deciding to like put themselves on a schedule, like let's do module one by this date and then jump on Zoom and discuss. And
right.
so it's like they call it reverse classroom, where you do the learning on your own and then um and then talk about it together. I think that would work,
Mm,
but because it's videos and reading material, stuff like that, I think it would be hard to do that together unless you're just going to watch the videos together and then read separately.
I
Um,
see. That makes sense.
but
So you're saying that that group was talking, they would still do the online training together and the module one together, but then there's a time when they come together. Hey, let's discuss module one. What did you all think about X, Y, and Z?
yeah,
That's kind of how they did
like
that. Okay.
almost like a book club. Like you
Uh,
do like read this chapter by this time and then we'll meet to talk about it, you
that
know.
makes a lot of sense.
But to like sit and read in the same room together wouldn't work for everyone, you know.
Right,
So
right.
that's the book club analogy that I would use for that.
That
But
makes a lot of sense.
so this is what it looks like when you do get access to this is the landing page of the curriculum. I took two screenshots because you scroll down to get to all of them. Um, but this is what they look like, and you click on the curriculum you want, and then as an example of what that then looks like, here's the middle school, a screenshot of the middle school curriculum. And you can see if you go to the what you do have access to, the outward facing Mosaic lifespan curriculum intro page, you will see the table of contents to all of the curricula. So you'll see these lesson titles, um, but you won't have access to the content until after you take the course.
I
And
see.
so this is an example. And then when you click on one of these, you'll get those six headings: the open, read, watch, do, close, and take home.
Mm. And this curriculum lives on the Mosaic kind of website. That's where everybody accesses it through.
Yes, yes. It's
Okay.
uua.org/mosaic.
Okay.
And so, yeah, here's just a look at the little
It was so
announcements
I
I've made.
yeah, I loved when you dropped it. It got each one was like you were so good at rolling it out. And it was like, oh, that's so
Thank you.
exciting. This one. Oh no way, this one. Like it was very exciting too. And so now you're saying all of the curriculum has been released.
All of it. Yeah. So here's all the little release announcements. And yeah, just a couple days ago, the emerging adult curriculum came out. We were hoping to get it out. The release date was February 7th, but I was like, well, I'm heavily pregnant, as you know. And I was like, let's try to get this out before the end of January. Actually, let's get it out early just in case.
Sure.
And so here's the little promo flyer thing for social media for the course facilitation
Awesome.
for transformation. So
So while we can give that, that's a public for everyone that wants to use it.
everyone, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So free with promo Mosaic. There's lots of great stuff for lay leaders on the UU Institute website. So yeah, I would definitely check that out. But yeah, this is the information for the self-paced course.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. The other question that's the kind of I think has been in my mind and has been in the I think we've been kind of talking about it. How would you say, obviously each reiteration of the UUA's anti-racism program, it's different for its time. When I was in at, First Church San Diego, I think it was mostly Jubilee stuff. And so like how does this fit into Jubilee 1, Jubilee 2, Beloved Conversations? Where does that I think that's a question that folks were kind of having. And I think you mentioned a little bit that it's so mirrored around the lifespan stuff with Owl. So is that how does this distinguish itself, and what was the need for this particular branch to come out to build off of all of those other
Yeah.
ones?
Well, so Jubilee really did introduce and still does introduce like the concept of white supremacy culture and white privilege and things. So it's definitely like a 101. So I think it's still very, very useful. And Beloved Conversations does some of that. It's all online now, Beloved Conversations. There's it's changed a bit. There's like the within, and then you graduate from with that's looking within, and then you that's more individual, like self-reflective, and then you graduate to among, and you take that as part of like a church cohort, like a congregational cohort, and explore you know how are we contributing to white supremacy culture, from what I understand. And so my comadre Kirsten Humblett Allen, she is the director of Beloved Conversations at Meadville. It's a Meadville seminary publication and program. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
this is a UUA thing. We don't compete, we support and promote one another. So it's a great in-depth uh, course for for congregations who want to make that investment, that commitment of time and money. And Kirsten contributed. She's one of the curators of several lessons in this series.
Mm.
So we have that uh, you know, brain power of that program in that way. But I would say that for like the general adult um, curriculum, for example, um, I that's where white adults would be. And I wouldn't say that it would be a great place for like a white congregant who wants to argue about the existence of racism in our congregations.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jubilee would probably be a better place to start. You know,
Mm,
like if
I
they're
see.
still stuck on the word privilege, that's probably not the best. This is probably not the best place for the because it's going to slow everyone else down. Um,
Sure.
this is not, there are introductory lessons, but it's not so much like other curricula in the past has, in my opinion, been centered around the white experience of accepting white privilege and white supremacy culture and the existence of racism in our congregations. Um,
Mm.
and it's spent a lot of time like massaging that understanding and like,
Oh yeah.
so we don't do that as much in this. It's presuming
Mm.
that you're familiar with the existence and you're ready to delve deeper. Um,
Mm.
so yeah. Um,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I definitely, when we had done those, some of the other just anti-racism trainings before, it always kind of felt like, who are you talking to? Like find a black friend and,
yeah.
and then we're like, the people of color are sitting there. It's like, did they just really ask me to find a, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm just saying, for example, sometimes it felt like we're always kind of pushing back against white supremacy culture. And then we never get into what actually means to be a BIPOC person in this faith because the framework is always let's start where the white folks are at. That's kind of what it felt like. So it sounds like this one challenges that.
Yeah, especially the BIPOC curriculum itself. It
Mm,
doesn't take any time for centering white folks.
mm,
Um, so and I don't know that anything has been, I mean, aside from like stuff specifically for um Black identified BIPOC, that has come from like Blue from their resources. I don't think anything else has ever been written, like a formal curriculum has been written for BIPOC adults in our faith before. So
wow.
that's new. Um,
Wow.
there's been like workshops and sessions, but not a whole curriculum. And what I didn't say is that so all of the curricula in the series are 8 lessons long, but except for the two that um, that white adults will have access to. And that's the emerging adult one and the general adult one. And the reason for that is because we know that white adults have the most to learn. And so in the emerging adults, we know that younger people have more analysis. They're exposed to more, they're, they're not going to be as new to the conversation as older generations. So that one has 2 extra lessons. So there's 10 total in the emerging adults. And in the general adults, there's 14 lessons. So there's an opportunity to delve deeper and
Mm,
spend more time. So yeah, and some of like starting from like middle school and high school, some of these lessons intentionally go into our complicity as Unitarian Universalists in perpetuating systems of racism. Um,
mm,
so our history and our present. Um, so yeah, and I should say also that every final lesson across the series is not the same content, but the same concept. So every final lesson is called Creative Jam, Imagining a Beloved Community. And
mm,
so it's an exercise in creativity and dreaming together, dreaming into being together in some way. And Like, for example, the middle school, high school, and emerging adult um, curricula that they are, I think the activity in all three of those are like creating a reel together
Oh,
and like
wow.
synthesizing your learning, creating a reel, and then there's a hashtag so that various youth groups can see what other folks are doing,
That
or
sounds
various young
awesome.
adult groups. Yeah. And so,
Um,
um, it can be funny, it can be serious, it can be whatever. And so yeah, I'm excited about what's going to come out of this. And last few slides are just like a blown up version just for ease of seeing it visually of one sample lesson in the general adult curriculum. Um, so this is a sample lesson, mixing and huddling the importance of racial diversity spaces within Unitarian Universalism. You can see that there's the open heading and then a link and a check-in question or two that you can use or choose not to use. Yeah, you click on the link, it takes you to the reading. And then under read, there's a couple of articles, and you can delve deeper if you have the time together to, go into a discussion around them, or you can send those questions home with people as journal prompts or further thinking. um, you watch a video together. This is a fun YouTube video about some BIPOC skaters and BIPOC and queer skaters that formed a community in Chicago because the skating communities, like skateboards, like rollerblade, roller skate, they're pretty open to all different forms, but it's mostly skateboarding. But like yeah, they noticed that the skateboarding culture was pretty white and male and straight, and so they formed this community. And so
wow.
yeah, it's super cute. I love it. And yeah, so then there's questions if you want to delve deeper again, or you can just let the video stand if you don't have that time. And then the do activity is this mosaic self-portrait activity, and these debrief questions are part of the activity, so we do recommend go through these together. And then the closing is a checkout question and this quote or this short reading from our president, Reverend Dr. Sofia Betancourt. And then take home is an activity. So finish your self portrait if you didn't finish it with the group, and as you do, listen to this song on YouTube. It's "I Am Light" by India Re, and then there's some reflection or journaling prompts, a couple of questions to sit with or write about in your own time. And so that is that. Yeah. Any other questions? I know you gotta
Wow.
go
Oh my
soon.
gosh. I know. I did the question on the tip is each lesson when you're actually facilitating, is it about an hour or does it depend on the age group too and kind of the situation?
It depends on the age group. Like the kindergarten first lessons are gonna be shorter, they have shorter attention spans, and I
Hmm.
think it's very important for those ages to have time, free time together at church, like playing on the playground if there is one. um, I always say that when I was a DRE, I used to tell the kids um, that playground time is like our laboratory. We learn about the principles, we learn about how to be together, and then we practice it. And we get to make mistakes, and we get to come back together, and we get to, yeah. So that's what the playground time is. And for the adults, they sit in service and reflect on it and listen to sermons and understand how to be better in community. And then they get to practice that in coffee hour before taking that out into the larger world where it's possible to make those mistakes and come back into relationship. But we have this covenant. We're in this covenanted community, so it's we have this framework for coming back together when we make mistakes. So So yeah, that's important. I'm sorry about that tangent. I just that's part of that's the understanding of the lessons for the younger grades. And then for the older, it's like I often say like if you have like small group ministries at your congregation, they're typically like an hour and a half or two for adults that come together, like I've heard them called chalice circles or whatnot,
Hmm.
for these small group ministries. And oftentimes they'll even meet at people's houses or coffee shops or something like that, or on Zoom. And so those lessons are designed to go about an hour and a half or 2 hours. But again, like you saw, like there's questions, there's, oftentimes like parts that you as a facilitator you can say like, okay, we can easily skip that, um or I can ask those questions as something to I can ask them aloud as something to consider, but with the understanding that we're not going to get into the discussion right now. Just want to leave you with this question to ponder. So yeah, there's a lot of discretion for the facilitator to say like, hey, we actually don't have time for these readings, but I'm going to email them to you. Or we don't, have time for this video, but do watch it on your own, so there's a lot of wiggle room right there.
That's awesome. I love all the flexibility and adaptability and like, but then also that container that we need, and like, well, what are we doing together during these times? And yeah, especially, with all the going on in the world right now, it helps to kind of hold on to something like this. And like, so just thank you so much, Marisol, for putting your love and ministry and care into this. And it feels very parallel to me, like, you've given birth now to this new curriculum and you're about to give birth, so
I
there's
keep
some
saying the
connection
same
there.
thing. I do. And like it's a labor of love, and like we wanted all the curators who contributed, and myself and my editor Helen Rose, or HP Rivers, they also go by, we all just wanted to make sure that there was joy built in. Like there's so much heaviness, and and this is a heavy subject. These are heavy things to talk about, but um, as BIPOC folks, we know that there would be no lucha, no struggle, no resistance without that, the full range of human emotions. Like we're grieving and we are laughing at the same time. Like
Definitely.
we're full human beings and we can feel more than one thing at the same time. So, like you saw that with like the I am light video, like we just really want to make space for that. So um I hope people have fun with this. I really
That's
do.
amazing. Oh, I'm so excited. So I'll definitely share this to the Drum California group. Is it okay to just maybe post this publicly too? I wonder if this might be a helpful conversation, not, outside the Drum California circle as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
Because I'm about to be on maternity leave, and then I come back for a couple months, and then I'm going on sabbatical. So I won't be
Uh,
able to like toot this horn that much in the next year. So
sure.
yeah, like help me spread the word. I would really appreciate that. As many
Sounds
people
good.
shout it from the rooftops.
Will do. Well, yeah, send me the recording and blessings on your journey. We'll be praying for you and your growing family.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see
Yeah.
your face and hear your voice and catch up
Yeah.
with you.
Great to connect with Marcel. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Okay,
All right.
bye.
Blessings. Bye.
On you as well.